How Pearl Jam took on the music industry and lost you but predicted the future. Not for the first time in 1995, Eddie Vedder was taking a phone call about portable toilets. With their recent going out on the road to promote Vitalogi that summer, Pearl Jam had pledged that their North American tour would skip venues that worked with Ticketmaster. But Ticketmaster, we were having week-long meetings about chain link fences and porta potties, Vedder told me, years on. And because we would, 24 years later, as Vedder prepares to play a Wembley solo show as support to his musical heroes The Who, it seems surreal that a band at Pearl Jam's level would ever take on Ticketmaster. The company merged, ticket prices are at record highs. Service fees are. Ticketmaster was already a Goliath when Pearl Jam made their stand in 1995. The story of how it also tells us a great deal about human nature. Pearl Jam had hope. There were other people who had opportunities to join in, Vedder told me in 2009, though he wasn't talking about Rem or any other specific artists. Instead, the dispute had its origins in two free concerts that Pearl Jam played in Seattle over Labor Day weekend, May 1 in 1992. Ticketmaster Vedder and his bandmates put their feet down, and distributed the tickets themselves. 12 months later, all of this led to tensions with Ticketmaster over service charges. As Pearl Jam this brought them into direct conflict with Ticketmaster, whose standard service charges in the US at that time ranged from $4 to $8. They thought $4, with neither side budging, and with Ticketmaster handling most of the major live music spaces in the US, their summer 1994 tour was cancelled. The loss to Pearl Jam, but they weren't returning. Following the release, we were so hard-headed about the 1995 tour, said bassist Fred Ament. Had to prove we could. Bad luck played a part. That June, several hours beforehand, Vedder was rushed to hospital with food poisoning. He went on stage. Still, it seemed the group were getting somewhere. In 1990, some of the congressional testimony against the company was damning. Aerosmith managed. Nonetheless, the Justice Department ultimately concluded that Ticketmaster was not breaching antitrust laws. In July 19, getting attacked by a superstar rock band is a lot like being accused of kicking your dog. There's a general presumption of guilt until proven innocent, Ticketmaster told Rolling Stone. Luckily the facts, we wanted to keep our ticket prices low, McCready would later say. To make any kind, we were asked by the US government to testify to the fact that Ticketmaster was a monopoly. They came to us. Pearl Jam clearly felt let down when other artists refused to join the boycott. They were clear. What we were trying to say was this could get worse if someone doesn't fight it now, Vedder told me in 2009, just as Live Nation and Ticketmaster were set to merge. And apparently, MSN are empowering women in sport this summer. Find out more about Gallery 70s rock bands. Where are they now? Wonderwall.
Raindrop, drop top, smoking, no cooking the hot pot. Fucking on your bitch, yeah, that. Looking up, open the park,